Dead by Daylight is a game known for having deep lore and many mysteries. Can survivors truly escape the entity? Do killers ever taste the survivor pudding before offering it up? Will Maurice ever be revived and brought back to Father Campbell's chapel? I don't know the answers to these, except I'm almost positive that at least Hag and Bubba have tried the pudding. However, there is one mystery that I seek to get to the bottom of in this video, and that one is, does someone at Behavior have a foot fetish? Specifically one for female feet? It's a running joke in the Dead by Daylight community that every female killer needs two things. One, a sad backstory, and two, bare feet. They've released charms that are just feet. They openly joke about it in their live streams. They even joke about feet in the dating simulator Hooked on You, where the spirit has a bit of an obsession. Because of all this, it would be pretty easy to say, well, if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, it's a foot enthusiast. However, I don't want to just look at the evidence and make an observation. I want to prove without a shadow of a doubt that Behavior has gone the way of Miyazaki. We're going to do this with statistics. I personally have a degree in statistics and I use statistics every day for my job, so I have a bit of expertise in this. I'm going to try to explain things in a way that can be understood by people who aren't really math-brained, so please don't let the overall mathiness of this make you click away, because Papa needs those watch hours to get monetization. The first part of this study I already did on my TikTok about a week ago and on YouTube Shorts just a couple days ago. If you want to know the full details of this, you can go over to one of those videos and take a look, but what you need to know is I only looked at killers and I separated the Legion and Twins into separate characters to give myself a bigger sample size. I also only looked at the default cosmetics. Of the 12 male killers in Dead by Daylight, only Wraith and Victor were barefoot. Of the 9 female killers, we had Nurse, Hag, Huntress, Spirit, Plague, and the Artist. And then I had another category that only had the Dredge, and I didn't include him because I didn't think he had feet that were visible, but he does have like a claw appendage that you can see during his Mori and during his idle animations in the lobby. So I messed up there. Anyway, if you have a sample and you're trying to measure a characteristic that's a yes or no thing, like are they barefoot or not, that's something that is called a binomial distribution. So we have two binomial distributions. The males have a probability of 16.7% of being barefoot, and the females have a probability of 66.7% of being barefoot. As a side note, I'm using the terms male and female because it's a legitimate scientific study, and not because I'm a fedora wearing Reddit browsing incel, so please don't look down on me for using the word female. So with these two binomial distributions, we compare them with what is called a z-test. This is the equation. Don't be too scared of it, at least it's not a deep math equation like the one used to calculate whether or not a Pokeball catches a Pokemon if it's thrown. All you need to know is we assume that Behavior treats men and women equally, and then this calculation determines how far apart the proportion of barefoot males is from the proportion of barefoot females, and tests our assumption that they're equal. If the number is exactly 0, that means Behavior is perfectly unbiased and treats the men's feet exactly the same as the women's feet. The further away from 0 it is, the further apart these two populations are, and therefore the more likely it is that Behavior is biased. If the Z value is about 2.3, it means there's a 99% chance that Behavior is biased towards the female feet. Plugging in what we have, the Z value is 2.4. That means that based on the default cosmetics, there's less than 1% chance the Behavior is unbiased. From this data, we can conclude that statistically speaking, Behavior's gone full Tarantino. You never go full Tarantino, boys. Because this is the internet and I was talking about feet, people got super interested and it took this very seriously. The video did a lot better than I thought it would, even though it was just a joke TikTok that I threw together in about an hour or so. People were offering up explanations as to why this was the case, saying that it's because Behavior's too lazy to model shoes, or because female killers are based on folklore characters more often than male characters. So let me just state what this statistic truly means. Behavior is biased towards making female killers default cosmetics barefoot, and it's extremely unlikely that this all just happened to be this way. It doesn't necessarily mean that they do have a thing for girls' feet, it just means that they're biased to show them more often for one reason or another. But it is really funny to phrase it and say that they have a female foot fetish, so that's what I'm going to keep doing. It's also worth noting that I should not have used a z-test because that's only good if you have a sample size that's greater than 30, so if I had 30 males and 30 females. But I digress, it was just a stupid TikTok, but now we're going to be absolutely serious for the YouTube video. In addition to thirsting over feet, TikTok was good for suggesting ways that I could improve my study, which is what I'm going to do with this video. So here are the following things I did to beef up my study about behavior fetishes. First change, we're going to be excluding Susie from the Legion from the study because she is widely considered to be below the age of 18. I did not know that. I just assumed all killers were 18 and over, and so we're yeeting her into the sun. We're also eliminating Victor from the mix and just considering Charlotte from the twins, and we're going to exclude Dredge just cuz. The second change, we're including all original survivors into the mix. This will increase our sample size pretty bigly, which is good. And you might be thinking, but Nick, all the survivors' default cosmetics have shoes. To which I say the third change is that we will be evaluating every full body cosmetic in the game other than licensed cosmetics. I may have missed a few, but I tried and I found about 550 of them. If there are multiple cosmetics that are just color swaps, I'm counting them all as one cosmetic. Also, if the cosmetic has one barefoot and one foot with a shoe on it, we're counting it as barefoot. Fourth change, we're counting sandals towards our feet representation due to popular demand. And bonus objective, somebody in my TikTok comments was interested in knowing if behavior favors showing the stomachs of one group or the other. So we're just gonna look at that while we look through all this cosmetics. A lot of the female survivor cosmetics show like a little sliver of midriff, but I'm thinking belly button has to be visible for this to count. This one's for you, Speaker Wolf. It's worth noting that with these changes, it still won't be a perfect study. Counting each cosmetic separately will increase the sample size to the point where we can have a credible study, and it will add in a bunch of male feet, but it also is going to amplify the female feet count for killers like Nurse and Hag, who are barefoot in pretty much all their cosmetics, and Artist, who is barefoot in all their cosmetics. However, it is a conscious decision made by the design team if they want to add shoes to a character cosmetic or not, so it's still measuring any potential bias they may have. With that out of the way, let's see if my new and improved study shows whether or not behavior is the Bob Odenkirk of video game developers. We're going to start with the survivors this time. We have 8 original male survivors and 12 original female survivors. There were 133 cosmetics for the boys and 184 cosmetics for the girls. Of the male cosmetics, 1 Dwight cosmetic and 2 Jake cosmetics were barefoot, and surprisingly I didn't find any with sandals, ? I could have missed something, but I don't think so. There are also 5 stomachs shown by the men, 3 by David and 2 by Felix. That means that 2.3% of male cosmetics show feet and 3.8% show tummies. Ace, Adam, Jeff, and Jonah did not put any points on the board for the boys this time. Of the female cosmetics, there wasn't a single barefoot cosmetic, but we had 15 cosmetics with sandals. Claudette and Kate carried the team by providing over half of those. There were also 51 stomachs. If you picked a random woman cosmetic out of the mix, you'd have an 8.2% chance of seeing feet and a 27.7% chance of seeing tum-tum. So what does this mean for the survivors? If you plug the numbers into our Z-value equation, the Z statistic for feet is 2.24, which is like a 98% chance that behavior favors women's feet over men's feet. The Z statistic for stomachs is 5.5, meaning it's well over 99% chance that behavior is biased towards showing female stomachs over men's. From these, we can say it's very statistically significant the extent to which behavior shows female survivors' feet and stomachs in comparison to male survivors. Now let's take a look at the killers. There are 11 original male killers and 8 original female killers. There are 134 male cosmetics and 84 unique female cosmetics. Right off the bat, the men come out swinging. There are 26 cosmetics showing feet, either by being barefoot or by wearing sandals. The Wraith did his civic duty by providing more than half of these. Looking at the bellies, you would not be disappointed to hear that there were 23 of them, with the Hillbilly and Trickster putting the team on their backs here. So the proportion of male killer skins that show feet is 19.4%, and the proportion of showing stomachs is 17.2%. The thing that blows my mind, if you compare the male killers to the female survivors, the boys beat them in showing feet. Good job, boys. However, there was no sort of divine intervention that could ever save these men from the power of Dead by Daylight's barefoot women. Of the 84 female killer cosmetics I looked at, 64 of them were barefoot or wearing sandals, bringing it damn near to 80% foot proportion. I would shout out the ones who contributed the most to this figure, but that would be everyone but Julie. So props to the ladies. If you look at the female killer stomach proportions, they had 12 skins showing belly button. I could have missed a couple because it's kind of hard to tell with the Hag sometimes, but that made the proportion out to be 14.3%. I ran the same test on the killers and came with a Z value of 8.7 in the feet. In statistics, you're not supposed to say anything with absolute certainty, but getting a number like a Z value of 8.7 is like saying I'm reasonably certain the Earth is round. This is the most statistically significant result I have ever seen. There's no way behavior is unbiased in deciding which gender gets barefoot more often, as far as the killers go at least. One thing somebody in my Discord brought up is that it might be cheating to include the Artist, since she's missing part of her feet and we don't even know if she can wear shoes to begin with. But even if you take her out, the statistic is over 8, which is pretty damning for behavior. Behavior makes Quentin Tarantino look like the Pope as far as foot fetishes go. Like, holy shit, you could search the world over and find the most depraved foot guy on the planet, and chances are he still would bow down and rescind his title if he looked at the skins in Dead by Daylight. Anyway, the Z value for killer tummies was negative 0.97, which means there is not enough evidence to suggest that behavior favors men over women when it comes to deciding who shows off more stomach, but it appears to be a lean towards the male killers. So good job, boys, for normalizing crop tops. So if you're keeping track at home, you'll know that according to the numbers, behavior prefers female survivor feet to male survivor feet, as well as female survivor stomachs to male survivor stomachs. You'll also know that behavior is so unbelievably obsessed with female killer feet that it's not even funny at this point, and that female and male killer stomachs are seen about equally in the developer's eyes, with a slight lean towards the dudes. It would be pretty unsurprising then to know that if you combine both killers and survivors, that females in general are preferred to be barefoot and show stomachs by behavior, with the Z values both being around 5. Now that we know about this, let's revisit my first study on TikTok, but take it seriously this time. If there is a cosmetic for a character that shows feet, be it sandaled or bare, that will count towards the foot category. There are 9 males that show feet: Dwight, Jake, Wraith, Hillbilly, Doctor, Clown, Oni, Blight, and Trickster. Out of the 19 original males in Dead by Daylight, that makes a proportion to be 47.4%. 14 out of the 20 original females showed feet for a 70% proportion. I'm not going to list them because that's most of them. If you count for the smaller sample size and use a 2-sample t-test like I should have done, then you get a t-statistic of negative 1.437. The p-value for this test is 0.08. Which means that it's a fair amount of evidence to suggest that behavior prefers female feet, but it's not statistically significant enough to draw any concrete conclusions. So what do all these studies mean? Let's go over it. The final study means that there isn't enough evidence to conclude that behavior discriminates against men or women when choosing who to make barefoot in the game. However, the evidence overwhelmingly suggests that behavior prefers to make the women bare feet more often. So I personally, the way I interpret these results is I think, yes, this is enough evidence to suggest that behavior has a thing for women's feet. Whether that thing is a fetish or not, it's in the eye of the beholder, I guess. But like I said, if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, it's got a foot thing. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. This is the dumbest thing I have ever created, but also the most beautiful, I think. If you guys liked it, please feel free to share it. I took a lot of time and did a lot of math for this. So yeah, I hope you guys are having a nice day. I hope you're taking care of yourself. Please stay hydrated today, and I'll catch you on the next one.